Hello everyone, McGee here with another draft battle analysis video and recap. This time looking at my week 6 match in the BBL against Electric and his Bacon and Eggs team. As it stands, I am 4-1, having bounced back nicely after suffering my first loss during week 4. I have rebuilt my team, adding pieces like Faramosa and Jirachi to give me better options to address things, Mega Sableye to help check hazards a little bit better as my team was really vulnerable to hazards. So, as it stands, I'm trying to make a final push into the playoffs. We are entering week 6 in an 8-week season. 5 wins should secure a playoff appearance, although there is definitely some room for differential to play a factor. So, 6 is going to be the magic number, but 5 should put me in a really good spot. And as it stands, I am 4-1, searching for that 5th win. But before we get into that match, we're going to take a look at the team that he had available to him, and then the pieces I brought to best address that. So he's got Arceus Dragon, really scary. Arceus is always a difficult mon to deal with. I'm always worried about running into Arceus. Dragon is pretty scary. And then to pair with that as his other Uber, he's got Dialga, who in a way is almost more concerning because Arceus Dragon can be managed by Florges to a degree, but Dialga with that Steel Dragon typing makes it really hard to check it defensively. Pretty reliant on something like Pyukumuku essentially to get in there, but Dialga has a lot of ways of dealing with Pyukumuku, so I'm not overly optimistic about my ways to adjust that. Clefable is concerning just because it can run a lot of sets. Don't know if it's going to be Unaware or Magic Guard. Either have value against a team like mine. So trying to set up with anything without knowing what Clefable is can be very problematic. Skarmory, really just a hazard setter. I'm not too concerned about what it can do other than set hazards. So as long as I can check it as a hazard setter, I'm not too worried about it in this matchup. Mamoswine, decent speed tier, great typing, obviously. That ice ground is pretty problematic. Pyukumuku's in a pretty good spot to handle that, but I don't want to be relying exclusively on Pyukumuku as a way to manage that. Volcarona, really good sweeper, really dangerous to deal with. Florges is in a pretty decent spot to check it. I'll get into how I was going to address that in the team build when we get there, but Volcarona does concern me, and I do have more than one ways of kind of checking that. Starmie, really just concerned about its ability to be a rapid spinner. I mean, it has good coverage moves. It has ways of exerting some pressure, but it just struggles against something like Florges or Pyukumuku in terms of wall breaking power. So, mostly concerned with its potential to be a spinner, pivoter with flip turn, or some kind of status inducer with like Toxic. Drapion, mostly pretty much exclusively concerned about it for its ability to set toxic spikes because I don't have a great way of handling that. My poison type is Toxtricity, who doesn't want to come to a lot of matches. And so reliably checking T spikes is going to be a concern. And Florges isn't in a great spot to pressure that just because it doesn't take well to poison jabs. Heliolisk, not concerned about it, really just a pivoter, but has no way to really pressure Florges. So I have a good defensive piece that it really can't exert itself through. Oricorio, mostly concerned about its hazard roll. I'm not really planning on running Quiver Dance Pheromosa, so it's not going to get any sort of dancer boost off of that. It has Defog and Toxic as support options. I could run something interesting with one of the typings, but I'm not overly worried about what that is. I mean, it is an Oricorio at the end of the day. And then finally, Terrakion, somewhat concerned about Terrakion's ability to exert pressure. It has a rougher speed tier in that it's not going to catch Pheromosa and it's not going to break my Zygarde, so it doesn't get to exert free pressure, nor does it get to sweep a game unless it's running Scarf. So I just need to make sure I can offensively check that so it can't start sweeping. And then I still have options like Jirachi as well to reliably one-hit KO it with a stab option if I need to. So looking at that team, the pieces I kind of brought to help manage that, Zygarde, I guess before I get into the team, I'm going to do what I did back in week 3, which is start with my Smeargle. So something that is apparent from team preview, looking at his team options, is that he does not have a grass type, which means Spore is absolutely free if I don't get outsped and taunted. So Smeargle is going to come back this week, and we're going to go for a very hyper offensive set because I feel that webs get on the ground pretty easily. And his only good defog option pretty much is Oricorio. Skarmory doesn't really want to run defog. It's more of a hazard setter, not a hazard removal. And then Starmie, if Starmie's going to run rapid spin. I haven't run hazards since my week 3 match. So again, hazards aren't going to be a top of mind consideration every week against me because I'm not someone that stacks a lot of hazards most weeks. So I see a window here to get webs on the ground. Webs on the ground shuts down Arceus because Arceus will be affected by the webs. Likely impacts Dialga, who doesn't usually want to carry heavy duty boots. And then other pieces like Mamoswine are likely to be affected as well. Volcarona has reason to run boots, so if Volcarona shows up, it probably won't be impacted by the webs, but I'm still going to run them anyway. So Spore, if I can get that out in turn 1, then webs are free on turn 2. Sticky Web, obviously, because the webs are what I want to put up. Nuzzle and Endeavor. So Nuzzle if I need to throw around some paralysis. Endeavor to punish something for putting me at 1 HP and put them at 1 HP. Max speed because that's the most logical thing to do, and then max HP because again that's the most logical thing to do. I have no other stats worth investing in. Then, with that in mind, with the general game plan of hyper offense established, we'll start back with Zygarde, who is running a weakness policy. There are a couple of decent spots for that to happen. Clefable will take me just down to like 50% reliably, so I will reliably get the weakness policy activated and then change over into complete form. So a win-win there. Ice Shard for Mamoswine, as long as it's not banned, it isn't going to really overly pressure me. I'll survive it, and so I can get opportunities there to set up. Weaken Dialga, so if Dialga has gotten to a point where it's clicked Draco Meteor and it's about to die and just wants to do more damage, then I kind of have a scenario there where I can bait out a weak Draco Meteor on me to, again, activate the weakness policy and just exert pressure. So I see a few opportunities to get it off. At the very least, it was something different than a leftovers, which I tend to run a lot, or a band, which I ran last week. So I felt there was an opportunity for it. Thousand Arrows because it's the move you want to run. Iron Tail specifically for Clefable, as long as it's not unaware. As long as it's not unaware after just, I think, a Coil, Iron Tail will reliably KO the Clefable at that point. Rock Slide to address the Volcarona, and then Coil obviously to get my self a little bulkier. Speed invested so that at once webs are down and once I'm in complete form, so I lose 10 speed stat, I still outspeed the Arceus, which is what is relevant. I don't run a dragon move. I debated between Rock Slide and like Outrage, but Outrage has potential to really impact me and slow me down if I haven't dealt with Clefable, so I'd rather just not get locked into a move that could come back and punish me. Pheromosa, speed invested to outspeed max speed Arceus. Don't really account for any scarves, because once webs are done, I don't care about the scarves. Nothing was going to outspeed Pheromosa once the webs impact it. Shockwave to deal with Skarmory so that I have a way of clicking close combat as it comes in. I probably don't 2-hit KO it, and then I click Shockwave, and then it goes down. Poison Jab for Clefable, and then Triple Axle for the Arceus. Max HP Arceus will be 1-hit KO'd reliably by Triple Axle once I get a Beast Boost. So I can clean up something weak, and then Arceus can come hit the field, and as long as it's not a really, really defensive Arceus, it's going to be 1-hit KO'd if all 3 Triple Axles hit. Florges opting for an offensive set because Florges does a lot of work with the one piece checking it being the Volcarona, but Volcarona doesn't really have a way to contest with a Calm Mind set because I can Calm Mind and just get my special defense up as it's trying to Quiver Dance, and then I can slap it with the Toxic as it's trying to set up so that it's on a timer while I continue to Calm Mind and Synthesis till it goes down. And then Moonblast hits everything else for really good damage, and then speed invested so that I do outspeed the Arceus in webs, which I felt could be relevant. That way I'm reliably going first and smacking it for really, really good damage. The Jirachi, opting for a very offensive power herb set. Speed invested to outspeed max speed Mamoswine, so as long as webs are down, Mamoswine can't outspeed Jirachi, no matter whether it's Scarf or not. Meteor Beam with the Power Herb, really trying to preserve that if Volcarona comes and just smack the Volcarona with it. But if Volcarona isn't there, then just the first opportunity to Meteor Beam and go crazy. Moonblast for Arceus and for Dialga. Flash Cannon to help with the Mamoswine. Thunderbolt is a good way of addressing the Skarmory and the Starmie as well. So just a good way to tag both of them for strong damage. And then really just try to hit as hard as possible after the Meteor Beam, so max special attack, modest nature. And then finally, It wouldn't be a game without Larry the Pyukamuku on here as well. We're going to run Unaware and Leftovers this week, really just trying to check Dialga and Arceus as much as possible. I can't handle a spec set all that well, but I can check most setup versions. Arceus is not in a position to run any sort of calm mindsets. I am worried that if Dialga subs Toxics, I'm in trouble. Pyukamuku doesn't address that, obviously. Recover, Mirror Coat, Toxic, and then Baton Pass. So Pyukamuku kind of comes and hits the field, scouts what's happening or stops what's happening, and then gets out. Really also a good way of handling Volcarona, so Volcarona cannot set up in front of it and sweep. Obviously, Volcarona has options like Safeguard to prevent me from Toxicking it, but I can always run the PP stall game if I have to, because Volcarona just really doesn't have a lot of ways to pressure me with its moves otherwise. So that's the team. That's what I generally assembled. Really trying to get webs down on turn one and just apply pressure until things break, and then using Pyukamuku as a way to take an attack and then pivot right back out as necessary. So looking at his team, Volcarona is not there, which makes matters a lot better for both Faramosa, who didn't really have a way to pressure it, and Jirachi, who had a very limited opportunity to exert pressure unless I could smack the Volcarona with Meteor Beam. And then, nothing hazard-wise that overly concerns me with the exception of Drapion. So I'm very wary of Drapion's ability to put Toxic Spikes down, and that could really impact my game as I do not have any sort of defog and I do not have any sort of healing option. So once those are down, pretty much everyone except for Jirachi is going to be affected by them. So I need to try to deal with this Drapion as quickly and efficiently as possible. So going into the first turn, I'm going to obviously lead Smeargle. He's going to lead Drapion. The concerning thing, and you've already seen that it didn't happen, the concerning thing here is that Drapion reliably outspeeds my Smeargle if it runs enough speed investment. It can easily get past the 273 mark and taunt me, which it has access to, run Toxic Spikes, which it can always do, or just any sort of other set it may want to do. So I should be losing this turn one exchange, but I'm doing the gamble anyway on the off chance that it's just going to go for Toxic Spikes on turn one or knockoff or some kind of other option. And very fortunately, I'm outspeeding it. We discussed after the game, it seems that it was a miscalculation by him. He did not correctly invest enough EVs to get past the Smeargle speed, even though he was aware of it. So a very fortunate turn one exchange where I'm able to get the Spore and he's shut down on turn one. Turn two is going to come up. I'm going to click the Sticky Webs, and then he's going to taunt this time. So he did, in fact, carry the taunt. He just did not outspeed, and there wasn't a good reason he shouldn't have. It was just a really unfortunate speed investment by him. So I get my webs down. Smeargle's still able to maintain full health because he taunted instead of going for a knockoff or something like that. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna flee with Smeargle right here and go into Zygarde. It's the mon I'm most willing to lose the item on because I don't see a lot of windows to get that activated, and if I can't get it activated, it's not the end of the world because I can still set up and do damage. The Zygarde's gonna not Zygarde. The Drapion knocks off. I lose my weakness policy. I don't mind. I'm able to immediately exert pressure on this. It's going to taunt because a way I have regularly been using my Zygarde is that as a subset that goes for some kind of toxic stall. So again, I denied that. He probably did not expect me to be as speed invested as I was. And so again, I'm outspeeding even though he probably did not anticipate that. And then I'm in a really, really good spot here to just continue pressuring with Thousand Arrows. Clefable comes in. I'm going to Thousand Arrows. I don't know what this Clefable is going to do. And then the thing that it doesn't happen at the end of this turn is leftovers don't activate. So I'm very aware it might be a trick Clefable. And so I need to be cautious about what it tricks onto who. And the best piece to absorb whatever it might want to trick is my Pyukamuku, who I'm not too concerned about in terms of this match. Volcarona isn't here, which is one of the things Pyukamuku was there to check. I already have momentum control because the webs are down, so I'm able to deal with both Arceus and Dialga at the moment. And so I'm not overly reliant on the Pyukamuku at this stage in the game as I may have been if some other sets had showed up or if I had not gotten webs down. And so I'm able to absorb this trick, which is Sticky Barb, unfortunate, but I'm able to baton pass very successfully into Florges because I do not expect it to be both a trick set, and a status set. It might have rocks, it might have some kind of other option, but I think it's probably more of a support set with the trick. So I'm in a really good spot to click Calm Mind and just try to immediately exert pressure. It teleports out. Choreo comes in. I expect it to defog, but instead it opts to Toxic. Really smart play. I can't manage that, so my floor just is going to be on a timer. Unfortunate miss. Really, the only impact of that is whether or not it would have flinched. If it would have flinched, that would have been meaningful, but the damage there wasn't going to be relevant. Dialga comes in. Dialga wants to exert some damage and some pressure on me, but again, I'm +1 special defense. I have a 154 special defense stat. I'm just in a really good position to survive that. And now I enter my last turn of life before the Toxic's going to take me out. I'm going to pretty much break whatever gets hit by this Moonblast. So whether he wants to throw at Dialga, Mamoswine, Drapion, or Clefable, something is getting KO'd by this Moonblast here. Arceus Dragon's probably getting OHKO'd or nearly OHKO'd by this Moonblast. So I'm in a really, really good spot to claim another KO before I go down here. He opts to sack his Dialga, probably the smart play considering. Maybe he could have thrown away Clefable, but he wants a way to still pressure Zygarde. Arceus Dragon comes in. I'm going to immediately go for my Meteor Beam set to try and take off offensively and try to clean out the rest of this game. It is unfortunately a defog Arceus. It does take away some of my momentum with the webs, but I still have a fully healthy Smeargle, so I can get those back up. I nearly KO this Arceus. I don't quite successfully do it, and he's going to do a really, really smart thing here. He's going to switch into Drapion, sack the Drapion, and then he's going to come back in with Arceus, who no longer is affected by the web. So now Arceus outspeeds me. And the reason this is relevant is because, again, I outspeed I outspeed max speed Mamoswine. I outspeed Clefable. I'm going to KO both of them with Flash Cannon at this point. He understands this. So if he let Arceus go down on that last turn, he just loses the game because I just clean up with my moves. And unless that's a Scarf Mamoswine, which based off his behavior implies it's not, I'm in a spot to win. So now Earth Power takes me down to really low health so that he is able to come in with the Mamoswine and just click Ice Shard and get that 8% that he needs to get the KO. I'm wary it might be Scarf, and so I'm going to come in with Smeargle just to reset webs because I'm in a good spot to do so. But I'm going to Spore first because it's free status on something. He's going to come back in with Mamoswine as I reset webs. My expectation is that he was Scarf, but he's not even faster than me. He's actually probably Adamant Nature, so 259 or less in terms of speed investment. So he's just running really aggressive Mamoswine. So I actually outspeed him, which caught me by surprise. And it does impact me because now I'm not in a spot to get the Endeavor damage I wanted to get. Really lackluster amount of damage instead. He comes for the Ice Shard, gets the KO. Really smart play. I'm going to come in with Pheromosa because I know Ice Shard doesn't OHKO me. And something I did with Pheromosa back in team preview is I opted for a negative special defense nature over a negative defense nature, very specifically because of Ice Shard. I did not want to further hinder my already terrible defense stat, and I figured the Ice Shard could be a relevant attack later in this game. So I made that decision to run a negative special defense nature, and I can already see the benefits of that in this match. I'm going to click close combat here because it's safe to do. The Clefable has had 0 sleep turns so far, so I know I get 2 more chances to attack it if it hard switches in like it did. I'm going to do a lot of damage, not quite break it. And then I'm going to get the Poison Jab, which is going to nearly finish it. It activates its first sleep turn, so now I know I can safely click Poison Jab again to close out that KO. He's going to come back in with Mamoswine. Mamoswine has to click Ice Shard here or the game's over. It's pretty clear. I'm going to hard switch into Pyukumuku as it's my best option that's available to me. Obviously the Sticky Barb is impacting me. Icicle Crash is going to do some damage as well. I'm just going to put a Toxic on it so that in case it's a Chople Berry, because I don't know what its item is, it has not revealed the item, that I'm in a really good spot to clean it up no matter whether that item is Chople Berry or not. Ice Shard comes in, does 77%, really relevant that, again, I wasn't negative defense nature. I get the critical hit on close combat, which is irrelevant. It gets KO no matter what happens because it was not Choppleberry, and I don't think Choppleberry would have made a difference either way. But in the end, able to close out the win. Really fortunate on that turn 1 exchange. It's an entirely different game if Drapion outspeeds like it should have. I don't get my webs up. He gets his Toxic Spikes up. I'm not in as great a position to exert as much pressure anymore because my pieces are all dying, with the exception of Jirachi, who may still be able to do some work depending on how things shake out, but not nearly in as good of a spot as it would have been before. But all in all, I moved to 5-1 now. Probably secured a playoff spot, but I'll have to wait for the rest of the week to play out to be sure. There are 2 weeks left in the regular season. I'm looking to finish strong and push for a 7-1 record to really assert myself as one of the primary contenders going into playoffs. Really happy with how the new redesign is working. Faramosa's already picked up 4 KOs in 2 weeks. Really happy about that. Jirachi did a very important paralysis last week against the Greninja, and it came in and scooped up 2 KOs this week. Almost could have gotten 4 if he had not played around the webs like he had with his Arceus, which was good on him. And then Zygarde did not have to do much this week, but Zygarde obviously still remains a force to be reckoned with, and he still leads the team in KOs at 10, I believe. And then I got to bring out a little bit of offensive Florges. Florges is always fun when you can play it with offensive sets. And so if I can get a Calm Mind in there, and then I had the web support, Florges was really actually quite potent. So really happy with what Florges was able to do. Wish it had a couple more turns to exert pressure, but very happy with what it did in those turns it had. So I moved to, like I said, 5-1. I will be back next time with the next video, so stay tuned.